US President Donald Trump cranked up his trade threats on Friday. He targeted both smartphone giant Apple along with imports from the European Union. His latest move hit global markets after weeks of de-escalation gave some relief. Trump threatened to impose a 25% tariff on Apple for any iPhone sold but not manufactured in the US. More than 60 million phones are sold in the country annually, but the US has no smartphone manufacturing. He also said he would recommend a 50% tariff on the EU to start June 1st. It would lead to big levies on luxury items, pharmaceuticals and other goods produced by European manufacturers. George Buckley is Nomura's chief European economist.
Well, I mean, this would be a disaster for trade. It's a significant uplift in what Mr. Trump was talking about doing originally, which was the 20% reciprocal tariffs. I think a lot of people had hoped that the delegation which was being sent to the US was going to provide some ideas and concrete ways forward in which to reduce that 20% reciprocal tariff.
Markets dropped on the news. The Euro Stoxx 600 fell 2%, while S&P 500 futures lost ground in pre-market activity. Trump didn't give a time frame for his warning to Apple. It isn't clear if he can put a tariff on an individual company. Apple did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment.
Russia and Ukraine each released 390 prisoners on Friday as part of what is expected to be the biggest prisoner swap of the three-year war so far. The agreement to exchange 1,000 prisoners each was the only concrete step towards peace to emerge last week from talks in Istanbul. Both sides said they had released 270 soldiers and 120 civilians so far, with more to come on Saturday and Sunday. At the Istanbul talks, they had failed to agree to a ceasefire proposed by US President Donald Trump. On the prisoner swap, Trump wrote on Truth Social, "Congratulations to both sides on this negotiation. This could lead to something big." Hundreds of thousands of soldiers are believed to have been wounded or killed in Europe's deadliest war since World War II. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilians have also died as Russian forces have bombarded Ukrainian cities. Ukraine says it is ready for a 30-day ceasefire immediately. Russia, which launched the war by invading its neighbour in 2022 and now occupies about a fifth of Ukraine, says it will not pause its assault until conditions are met first.
Russia launched a combined aerial attack on Kyiv overnight, marking one of the largest assaults on the Ukrainian capital in 3 years. Dozens of drones and ballistic missiles targeted the city, damaging several apartment buildings and injuring at least 15 people. Reuters witnesses saw and heard successive waves of drones flying over Kyiv, and a series of explosions jolted the city. Ukraine's Air Force reported that Russia fired 14 ballistic missiles and launched 250 long-range drones overnight, primarily targeting Kyiv. The Kyiv City Military Administration reported damage across 6 districts of the Ukrainian capital. There was no immediate comment from Russia on the overnight attacks. Despite these attacks, both Ukraine and Russia have agreed to a request from US President Donald Trump to hold fresh peace talks. This follows a major prisoner exchange on Friday, which Trump hailed as a step towards positive developments. However, accusations between Moscow and Kyiv persist, questioning each other's commitment to ending the conflict.
Iranian and US negotiators were resuming talks in Rome on Friday over a decades-long dispute about Tehran's nuclear ambitions. That's despite Iran's supreme leader warning that clinching a new deal might be insurmountable. Amid clashing red lines, the stakes are high for both sides. President Donald Trump wants to curtail Tehran's potential to produce a nuclear weapon that could trigger a regional nuclear arms race. Iran wants to be rid of devastating sanctions on its oil-based economy. Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, will meet Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi for a 5th round of talks through Omani mediators. Iran's uranium enrichment remains the most contentious issue on which both Washington and Tehran have a tough public stance.
If they want to have a civil nuclear energy program like other countries around the world have without enrichment.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Tuesday that Washington is aiming for an accord that would allow Iran to have a civil nuclear energy program, but not enrich uranium. However, Arachi wrote on social media that Iran would be willing to reach a deal with no nuclear weapons, but that zero enrichment meant, quote, "we do not have a deal." Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has the last say on Iran's state matter, has rejected Washington's demands as excessive and outrageous. Among further stumbling blocks is Tehran's refusal to ship abroad all of its highly enriched uranium stockpile, a potential raw material for nuclear bombs, or engage in discussions over its ballistic missile program. Iran says it is ready to accept some limits on enrichment, which it maintains is for civil nuclear energy uses only, but needs watertight guarantees that Washington would not renege on a future nuclear accord.
Cannes was temporarily running out of coffee and croissants on Saturday as a power outage hit southern France. Electricity partially returned later in the day. But it caused disruption in the host city of the world-famous Cannes Film Festival.
Ça a été catastrophique.
One restaurant described the situation as, quote, catastrophic. Another said,
"It means a lot of money lost."
During the power cut, restaurants said they could only cook with gas, serve cold dishes, and customers had to pay cash. It also meant there was no ice cream for sale at this gelato shop, as the staff said fridges were switched off. Darren Vukasinovic is an Australian film producer.
Cannes is in like a total slowdown, meltdown. There is no coffee anywhere, and I think the town has run out of croissants. I mean, this is like crisis territory.
French police were investigating a possible arson attack as being the main cause for the power outage. The Cannes Film Festival said the Palais de Festival had switched to an independent power supply, and that the closing ceremony would take place as planned on Saturday evening.
So Solstice was washed up last Christmas Eve in County Clare. She came in with pneumonia, meningitis, and she was cold stunned, so she was in pretty bad shape. And she had a shark or seal bite on the top and bottom of her shell. So we've had her for the last 6 months, and she's been on antibiotics. She's been being taken out and scrubbed daily, and she's had all the care in the world.